welcome everybody to the August 18th, 2020 work session. The official time is 4 o'clock. We get call this meeting over. Get approval of the agenda. We get on our way.
So move, Mr. Chairman.
We got a motion. We got a second.
Second.
All in favor, aye.
Aye.
Ayes have it. Session. Our first thing on our work session is the retirement on the 401A and 7B. Hires. Jason, you want to start and turn it over to Greg, or who start it off?
I can start just briefly. You know, as we've gone through the salary study process and looked at a number of different areas of our operations and how we can save money. One of the things that came up there was retirement, and one idea was potentially for new hires going to a 401, 457 model. And so we've reached out to ACCG Retirement, and we've got Greg Geese on with us today, and David Bell may be with us as well. And just ask them if they could kind of talk through what that might look like, and answer any questions the board might have. So with that, I'll turn it over to Greg.
Well, thank you, Jason.
Mute everybody and then just turn on the ones that's talking. We got a whole lot of background noise. We got
Okay, and one little shortcut that I just found, if you want to stay on mute, and if you have something you want to say, as long as you've got a keyboard, you can hold down the space bar, and it'll temporarily unmute you, and then you let go of the space bar when you finish talking. That might help with some of it. But I'll go ahead and mute everyone. And Greg, if you and David want to unmute yourselves, and the floor will be yours.
Okay. All right. Mute. Yes or no?
All right, Greg, I think I've got you unmuted now.
Okay. Can you hear me? Okay. Good. Okay. All right. So, again, let me introduce myself briefly. I know you guys got a full agenda, and I'll introduce David, and then we'll jump right into it. Again, as Jason said, I'm with ACCG Retirement Services. My name is Greg Geese. I'm the field service manager for ACCG Retirement Services. I've been working with county governments doing governmental retirement plans for about 22 years. So this will not be my first rodeo. I have been the regional client manager for Jones County in the past, worked with y'all for about 10 years until we did some realignment with the territory, and David Bell is now your assigned regional client manager and doing a real good job over there. So again, Jason reached out to me asking for some ideas as far as what you guys can do or possibly do with regards to your retirement program as potentially some cost-saving measures. I will start the conversation by saying is outside of just going away from retirement plans completely, you're not going to have any real cost savings in the immediate future, okay? The idea of going to a 401A and 457 is what a lot of counties have done. I have worked with probably over 10 or 12 counties doing these types of conversions. But just understanding this is a cost savings for the future, not for tomorrow. Because the fact that if you're doing this simply on new employees, unless you're planning on doing a massive number of firings in the immediate future, the bulk of your employees will still be covered under the pension plan, and it'll be a slow but steady process of getting new folks under the DB or under a DC plan. And as those folks fall off and retire under the old DB plan. So again, I just like to say that so that everybody understands is we're not going to see a change in our retirement contributions in the shortfall. It's a long-term measure. And again, it would not be the first time that counties have done this. And again, counties that have done this 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago are now starting to see those cost-saving measures. Hopefully you all received the information I put together and were able to make heads or tails of it. Again, I'm happy to address any questions you have on some of the information that I provided. The first thing is I gave you a summary of basically what your plan is currently. You all have a defined benefit plan. It's running about 16.5% of your current payroll. You have 198 people, active employees, which are full-time employees covered under the plan. You have 4 that are taking an in-service distribution, meaning they are at retirement age or older and continue to work, drawing a retirement benefit. You have 122 deferred vested participants, meaning people that have left the county with more than 5 years of service, and so they have a benefit waiting for them in the future. And you have 91 people being either retirees or their beneficiaries or people under disability currently drawing a benefit. Okay. Again, going as fast as I can. Again, stop me if I'm going too fast or if you have a question. The first thing I always talk about to counties when they get to this process is it automatically that we throw away our pension and go this new route? Well, again, I can argue it both ways. I can give you an argument that pensions are the greatest thing in the world and you should never do away with them, and you're going to be so much better off by keeping a pension. I can argue that pensions are a thing of the past and that there's negatives to pensions and you should be looking at a defined contribution plan. I've made those arguments to boards before, and I'm not going to say one's better from the other. They are simply different, and that is all I can say is they are different animals. But a good pension is a good pension, and a good 457 401A plan is a good 457 plan and 401A plan. It's all in how it's designed. I've seen pensions that are not built or designed properly, and they don't accomplish the goal. I've seen 401A plans, 457 plans that aren't designed properly, and they don't get people to the goal. So it's not the type of plan, it's making sure that the plan you have is designed or set up properly to get your employees to the point or to the goal that you're trying to get them to, which is retirement. Okay, so the first thing option could be is, again, simply modifying the current plan, making some changes to it, either by reducing benefits or making some type of cost sharing with new employees. Again, whenever I talk about making changes, you typically don't want to do that to your existing employees. It's always for the new employees. The reason for that is, again, changing something that somebody's had in the past is never easy and what they're used to. And so when you start changing what current employees are used to, you're going to get pushback. But a new employee doesn't know any different. They don't know that they're not supposed to pay into retirement. It's a condition of their employment, and they can't miss money that they've never seen because it's been taken out of their check from their very first pay period. So again, that's option one, is to change your current benefit by, again, lowering costs by getting rid of the unreduced early or getting some type of change in benefit structure, or again, some cost sharing involved with the new employees. A model I presented earlier was what's called a hybrid model, in which you keep some form of a DB, a very stripped down basic DB with no bells and whistles, and then you put alongside that a DC 401A 457 plan, so that the employee gets the benefit of both worlds. Again, it doesn't accomplish the goal of taking the responsibility off the employer because again, by having a DB, the employer is always going to have that uncertainty of what's the cost is going to be from year to year. Our actuaries do a great job of trying to predict the future, but again, as any of us know, the future is not certain. And so no matter how hard they work and everything they do, sometimes there are things that happen that cause these plans costs to go up higher than expected. So again, with a hybrid plan, you're gonna would be still keeping a DB, but a much lower benefit DB than you currently have, and adding in a 401A 457 type of plan to go along with it. Again, another option would be just going away from DB completely, and that's been the course of action that a lot of your neighboring counties have done. I've worked with Putnam, Baldwin, Morgan, again, Oglethorpe. I can name on and on and on of counties that, like I said, have said, look, these DBs are very expensive. We never know what we're going to get from year to year. And again, we just want to go away from that route. Good, better, and different. That's what they've done. But again, I will, as I said, if designed properly, a DC plan can be a very lucrative retirement benefit for the employee that takes full advantage of what the county offers them. When doing these in the past, we would basically have most of the contribution to the 401A driven by the employer, and then the voluntary contributions made by the employee to the 457. Over time, we realized if you give the person the option not to contribute, there's going to be a large number of people that don't contribute. Well, if they don't contribute or they don't get skin in the game, they're going to fall very short in retirement income. So when designing plans going forward, we are designing them with a required employee contribution. Again, this is not dealing with your new folks. This would be dealing with new folks. And through experience, I can tell you is I've never had an employee say, I'm not going to take this job because you're going to make me put 4% to retirement. Just not happen. You know, it's a condition of employment, no different than paying 6.2% to Social Security. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. But the good news is you're going to get 4% back in return in a base contribution from the county if that's the plan design. Should have 3 sheets in your kits, your packets. One is showing the base 401A. It says Jones County defined benefit. And again, that would be changing the model to a very base 401A, or I'm sorry, a very base DB with just a 1% benefit calculator. And then along with that, setting up a very modest 457 401A match with a 2% base contribution by the employee and a 2% base contribution by the employer, and then an additional 2% match going forward. In the summary that I gave you, I ran those numbers and projected out what retirement would look like to these folks in comparison to what your current plan is for folks. So that if we go back and we look at your current plan, a 25-year employee would have about 37% income replacement to them. A 30-year employee, 45%, and a 35-year employee, 52%. Those are all great benefits. And you know what makes them great is they're free. The employee's not paying anything for those benefits. And they're getting anywhere from 37 to 50% of their pay replaced in retirement. You know, and nobody can kick on that. And if they should, they're being unrealistic, because we pay 6.2% into Social Security every year with an average income replacement of 40%. So how can you kick on 45% at 30 years of employment for zero out of your pocket? You can't. So that's what I say is you all have a good solid plan as it stands right now. So if you're gonna replace it, you got to replace it with something that's just as good and just as solid, because you can't have one group of employees with a really nice retirement and the new group of employees with very little in retirement. My reasoning behind that is you're going to pay now or you're going to pay later. Because if you I've seen counties that go completely the other way with retirement. They go from a very lucrative plan to a plan that is not set up or well designed or funded enough to begin with. And what's going to happen is 20 years from now, they're going to have employees in the latter part of their career who are making the top pay, who are less productive, who cannot afford to retire. So you're going to end up costing yourselves more in the long run. The other thing is you'll lose money on turnover. You know, if you don't offer good retirement benefits, there's other counties that will be out there that are willing to do that. And you won't keep employees. The common story is the deputy gets hired with your department because they have openings and you certify them and train them. And as soon as they're certified and trained, one of your competiting counties takes them away from you and you're starting back over again. Why did they leave to go to the other county? Might not be because of pay. It's probably because the retirement benefits are better. So, like I say, you can pay now or you can pay later as far as maintaining your employees. I saw Ashley, you're on, right? If I'm going off where I can't talk about, let me know. I'll try to redirect. I know you were concerned if we can't go into too much detail with some of this in a work session. So if I'm doing something wrong, please let me know. And you too, Mr. Chairman, you just shake your head and say, don't do that, Greg. So any questions so far? I know I'm talking fast, but I also know you guys got a big work session in front of you. So I'm trying to cover as much as I can. Everybody up to speed? Everybody good? Okay. So, question? All right. So in looking at these plan designs, like I say, if designed properly, either a hybrid plan or just a 401A 457 plan, they can get to those income replacement numbers that you're looking for. Again, Social Security is only going to replace about 40 to 45% of income. So in order for somebody to have good retirement, they need another 40 to 50% somewhere else, and that somewhere else is from themselves and from their employer. So that if you look under the hybrid plan again, I don't worry about the 5-year employee, I don't worry about the 10-year employee, I worry about the career employee, because that's the people we're trying to take care of. If you look at a 30-year employee under the hybrid plan, their projected income replacement with the pension, the straightforward pension, would be 30%. If they just did the required 2% into the 401A and 2% into the by them and the county, they would be looking at an additional 15% of income replacement. So that employee, as a bare minimum, would be looking at 45% income replacement to go along with Social Security at, say, 40%. That puts them at 85%. If that employee was smart enough to take advantage of the match, that would be an additional 15%. And now you're looking at somewhere around 80 to 90 to 100% income replacement. Just depending on where they are is when they start Social Security. So it definitely can be accomplished by having a 401A and 457 in conjunction with a very baseline no frills DB. In comparison, if you look at the 30-year model on just the 457 and the 401A, again, if they don't take advantage of the match, you're just looking at 30% income replacement. They're putting 4% in, they're getting 4% from the county. And again, after 30 years, they'd have roughly about $200,000, which would generate about 30% income replacement. 30% along with 40% from Social Security, hey, that's 70%. There's a lot of people out there who would love to have 70% income replacement in retirement, but they don't. But if that same person took advantage of the match, now they're getting an additional 30%, and now you're talking about 60% replacement from the county through the 401A and 457, and 40% from Social Security, and now again they're back at that 100% income replacement level. So it can be accomplished. It's just got to be set up where the employee and the employers are putting enough money into it. Okay. The pros again to the DB is that the fact that there's no responsibility on the employee. They just show up, do their job, and then again they reach their vesting schedule. It's like everything, just like Social Security. I'm going to get a check for life. I can't outspend it. Every month that check's going to show up. But again, there's no availability to pass wealth along either. With a DC, I've watched people save money for over 25 years and spend it within 2 years. And then they're flat broke because they mismanage their money. So again, you can't protect people from themselves. But on the flip side, I've seen people retire, take a modest income stream out, and are going to pass large sums of money on to their family. Because again, with a DC plan, if the assets are not spent or withdrawn, they're going to pass on to family. So there's certainly a benefit to that as well. Okay. Questions, concerns? What else can I tell you? Like I say, I've had a lot of experience with this, and again, I'm happy to address any questions or concerns you all have.
Any questions for Greg?
Chairman, this is Sam. I know you said that you couldn't recommend either way. It depends on how your pension is designed. Would you agree based on the future liabilities of our pension that we need to make a change, or would you recommend staying the way we are? I don't see it being viable to stay the way it is.
Oh, and again, certainly I don't see it being viable the way it is, and that's why I say I gave you additional options on not just going, if not to say you have to throw away your pension, but you would change the structure of your pension. Again, you have a very generous unreduced early benefit. An employee can basically leave and draw their benefit after 20 years of service without any reduction. That's a very costly aspect of your pension plan. Again, that you can get rid of, not without getting rid of the pension plan. The other factor is a cost sharing. Like I say, if costs are going to go up, if you want to have a pension employees, you got to share in this load. No different than Social Security. So I'm not going to argue that, pension costs are going across the board. Some of it, we don't control, certainly. We can only do what the Fed sends down to us. And with the changes to our mortality tables, the projections on interest rate returns, all our actuaries can do is plug the numbers in and hope they work out. But yeah, Sam, it's certainly down the road. It is something that you go, where is it going to end? We've watched costs go up year after year after year. Where's the line in the sand? When are we going to get to the point where it's not going to go up any farther? I don't know. I don't know.
I agree, and I think one of the signs of the times is we don't have the loyalty on the employer or the employee side that we had the generation before us. I think it's the fact that, back in the old days, people worked 30, 40 years somewhere and retired from the same job. And nowadays, you don't see it that much. A lot of the generation, I want my money now and I want to invest it the way I want to invest it. So it works out both ways. So I do see a lot of that.
It is. That's a lot more advantageous. 457 401A plans are much more portable than they were in the past. Again, on the flip side is for that person that would be loyal, hey, the person that sees the advantage of a pension, they're going to stick around. They say, hey, if I just keep my nose clean for 25 years here, I get a guaranteed check for life. They're 1 in 10 employees that you get nowadays, because again, it's who's going to pay me more. And I've watched deputies jump back between 3 counties, and David could test this too. We see it every day. Hey, I've left Putnam to go to Baldwin. Hey, I left Baldwin to go back to Putnam. And why are you leaving? Well, they gave me another $1 an hour. Not looking at all the other aspects that just go into it when evaluating why you're leaving an employer to go to another employer. But unfortunately, that's what they do a lot of times. They're looking at what's my hourly rate, not the other factors such as retirement or health insurance or anything like that.
The last thing I'll say is I hope that the other commissioners in that anything that we do would be changed going forward, so that when you're hired on, you know what you expect. I think it would be absolutely unfair to anybody to do something that you were premise you were hired on.
Any other questions for Greg at this time?
One. Hey, Greg, Commissioner Martin here. Quick question. With exception to our current plan, if we tried to find or implement the best plan for our employee in terms of future revenue and portability and all the other benefits that goes along with one of those plans, which would it be?
The portability is very simple. That's a defined contribution plan, is much more portable than a defined benefit plan. The defined benefit plan is portable if they go to another ACCG county plan. They could take their time from Jones County and move it into another county plan. But if you go from Jones County to the city, GMA is not going to accept time from a county to a city. Only counties accept time from counties. So again, it's portable. DBs are portable, but in very select circumstances where, hey, you can leave a county job with a 457 and 401A and move it to a 401K plan. They're not even going to have to stay in governmental job. They could go to a private sector job and it could go to that plan. So that much more portable. Like I say, Commissioner, to argue which is better down the road, if you can tell me what the stock market's going to do for the next 30 years, I'll tell you which one's better. But there is that uncertainty. When the stock market performs, a DC participant reaps the gains. When the stock market performs under a DB side, the employee doesn't reap the gains. Their benefit doesn't go up. It's a set fixed benefit. On the flip side, if the stock market underperforms, that DB participant doesn't feel any changes to their benefit. Their benefit is a set formula, and market return doesn't matter to them. But on the DC side, all the risk and all the reward is on their side. So if the market doesn't perform, hey, I might have to work a little bit longer because I didn't reach my magic number. And that's all part of, if you go that route, that's all part of what David and myself have a job to do to make sure the employees understand that. Like say, you can't expect 20% every year, but again, when you have those bad years, you're going to have years to go offset it. So, if I knew the market was going to do 10% for the next 30 years, hey, DC is going to blow a DB out of the water, but you don't know that. If the market does a 7%, like I say, if you look at that model, using if enough contributions are made to it, a 30-year employee would be looking at 60% income replacement. And I didn't go high with my returns. I used a 6.5% performance rate, which is below what industry average is, and I used a 4.5% withdrawal rate, which is right around industry. So if you compared your plan today to a well-designed DC plan, if the market report returns at 6.5% per year, that 35-year employee is looking at 82% income replacement, whereas under the pension, they would be looking at 52. So a DC blows it out of the water, but that's making the assumption for 35 years you get a 6.2% return. Not unrealistic, and it's certainly happened over the last 35 years, but again, none of us can predict the future.
Absolutely, and I'm just really more interested in A, reduce county expenses, but B, giving the employee more options over how their funds are invested. As a teacher in the retirement system, I've never been happy with their performance for the return, but I know that ACCG has done a much better job of managing accounts across the states and delivering some good returns.
I'm sorry, I forgot to hold down the button. We've got good partners with UBS, and it is our goal to get those employees to the end game. And again, returns are returns, and you can't control it. The one thing that we can control, or we try to have to control, is the contribution rate. I don't care if the market's returning 10% a year. If you're only putting 4% away, you're not going to get enough. You're not going to have enough. So it's two-sided. One is to educate the employee that you got to put in, you got to put this amount in, you got to get to this level. And the second thing is you're going to have good years, you're going to have bad years, but you're looking for the consistency. Grinding out a 6 to 8% return for 30 years is all you're looking for. Yeah, you're going to get the double-digit returns, but you're also going to get the years of losses as well.
And just so I'm clear, the decision allows us to set a contribution, also a requirement for the employees as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's all, again, this was just one design. You can design your plan any way you like. You could have it as a mandatory employee contribution from nothing from the county. You can make it 100% from the county and nothing from the employee. It's all in what you want to do, but we look at it as a shared cost, so that the employee and the employer both have the term we use all the time is skin in the game. Hey, we're going to help you, and the more you help yourself, the more we're going to help you. That's where the match comes in. But if you're not able to do the match, or you don't believe in putting in money, hey, at least we're going to make you do that 4% mandatory. Even at a 4% base contribution with a 4% matching contribution under that 25-year scenario, you're looking at a 10% income replacement, which is not nearly enough. But for a 35-year employee, it's 21%. So, the base is one thing, but the match is the key to becoming a really good plan. And our goal is, again, we'll never get 100% of people to put in anything voluntarily. But if you get 75% of your folks to do something over what they're required, you're doing something right.
Awesome. And they're allowed to do I can't remember, is it 17 and a half pre-tax or is it 15? I can't remember the number.
Well, so that used to be old rules. They threw those rules out years ago. That your contribution rate is not determined anymore by a percentage of income. It's basically a flat dollar amount that the IRS sets every year, and then it's adjusted for age. But for the most part, most people can't hit those numbers anyway. So it's again, off the top of my head, it's around 19,500 for the 457 and a voluntary contribution, and you're not getting too many county employees that can afford $19,000 a year. But there is a lot of range to it for those that want to. And their required 401A contribution does not weigh against their optional voluntary contribution. I'm sorry, sir, you're breaking up. I didn't quite hear that.
Awesome. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Last question. For those that want to, that it will not affect current employees, but it's good. And
Hey, Lon, you broke up. We couldn't understand any of that. I'm sorry.
Chairman, I think yours is back last.
All right, here.
for design employees, new employees can be
And if I heard you correctly, you're asking a question. This is for the new employees, and can old employees opt into the new plan? Traditionally, not. It's we could look at that, but typically you set the new plan up for this is for new people hired as of this specific date. The 1/1 date is always what I'd like to start with, at all possible. Now, again, your existing employees have the availability to participate in 457 already. So, if they want to put money in, knock themselves out. Well, I'm not getting the match. Yeah, but you're getting a pension for free, so you shouldn't complain about not getting a 3 or 4% match. So they've always had the availability to participate in the 457, even though they're under the DB. They just wouldn't receive any matching money.
I guess the comment that I have, Chairman, is just that whatever decisions that we make, I want to make sure that we inform our current employees of the different plans that we have and make sure they're well educated about what we're doing. And as the new employees come on board, then they'll know what their options are.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, for the new employees, I can't think they've got a match available. So many people don't understand that. They put 4% in. Let's say they put 4% in, we're matching 4%, and if they go to 457B and do the same thing, that's free money, and that's what a lot of people don't understand in life. And I just anytime you're getting something for free, I'd put money in there all day long. Somebody gonna get match what I put in.
Like an old phrase said, that's the icing on the cake.
Mm.
Is that all you got, Mr. Pitts?
That's all I had. And I guess that's all I got.
Yeah, some of this we can go over in the executive session too. I'm gonna turn it back over to you because they say I'm getting some back feed.
Turn it back over to me, sir. All right, can everybody, okay, I think I'm lit up. Yeah, obviously, you don't want to do anything conflicting to your new employees. Again, you educate, and again, that's where David comes in. His job is we can do pre-meetings to let folks know that, hey, look, this is not a better benefit than what you've got. It's just different. And make them aware. Look, you want to put money in towards retirement? Great. There's 457. It's been available to you for the last 25 years. If you haven't taken advantage of it, that kind of falls on you. But we'll re-educate them on that. And then, like I say, where I see great success, and I can tell you the difference, and we can show you the difference in numbers, is when we have the availability to get in to educate those new hires in some type of new hire orientation. I just did one today for Jefferson County. I had 8 people on a video conference, and of the 8, I got 8 people to contribute extra money in the 457. Now, again, I've been doing this a long time and I'm pretty good at it. I'm a good salesman when it comes to this, even though it doesn't affect my paycheck. But when you start explaining to people that Social Security is only going to replace 40% of your income and you show it to them in black and white, it gets them motivated. It gets them motivated. So that's what we would ask for us to help you. David's got to have access to it. He's got to be able to come in there and meet with them once a quarter or once a month, or just depending on the number of people, and be able to sit down and give them an hour presentation explaining how this stuff works. Because you can throw a form at people and talk to them about match all they want, but the vast majority, especially young people, they don't understand it. So it's our job to explain it to them. So again, with a timeline on this, if you all decide you want to proceed down this, and again, talk more in your executive session, is again, what we'd want to do is first come up with a plan design. Again, I've proposed one. That does not necessarily mean that is locked in stone. That is an option. That is an option that I've used in other counties, but we can certainly design it any way you see fit. But again, you've got to make sure that when you get full participation, that somehow, some way, there's a minimum of 14% going away. This one's a 16% plan. This is what I call Cadillac. It's designed for success. Somebody follows this plan for 35 years, they're going to have a good retirement. And again, you're looking at, the maximum county cost would be an 8%. But that's if you had every employee do the maximum 4%. You're not going to have that. Like I say, we can pitch it all we want, but you're always going to have that some person that says, I can't afford to do anything extra, or I can't afford to do 4%, I'm going to do 2%. If you have an 8% plan, like I say, I estimate, if you look at that last sheet, I'd estimate your plan cost would run about 6.5% a year, because you're going to have those 5% of people that won't do anything. You'll have that another 15% that will do some into 457, but won't do the full 4%. And then hopefully you got 75% taking full advantage. And then the nice thing is when people leave, and depending on how you want to set up your vesting schedule, whether you want to do a 5-year step or a 5-year cliff, if they don't complete 5 years, some of that money is coming back to the county that can be used for new people going forward. Okay, county can't use it for anything else. It stays in the plan in what's called a forfeiture account, but it can be used for future costs of the plan, which is always nice. Okay. So again, once we work out a model that you all want, that you think will work, and again, David and myself will be available to talk in more detail on plan designs, vesting schedules, so and so forth. Then we would draft the documents. Board would vote on it, and we'd start the new plan again, ideally on a 1/1 date. It's always the best to start new plans at the start of a new year. And then at some point, if David and myself are able to get back out in the field, David, go out and educate your existing employees that, hey, they're not getting anything better. They're just getting something different. For any of those employees that you have that, that you're worried about pushback on that.
Okay, anybody else got any questions on the 401A or the 457B?
Yeah,
We good?
we're good.
All right, we can go on to part 2 of our work session, and that's retirement in-service distribution. I'll mute again so y'all won't have any back feed.
All right, so this is what, for just to make sure everybody's on the same page. What an in-service distribution does, it basically allows employees that are still working either on a full-time or part-time basis to start drawing their retirement check while still drawing a paycheck. Again, I can make arguments both ways on how this is a great thing or how this could be the most detrimental thing you could possibly have with your retirement plan. I've seen it work both ways, so that, you have this very valuable employee that's given you 25 years, who has a lot of knowledge, and they're just tired. They're ready to go home, but they love their job, and they don't want to hang it up completely, but they can't afford to just work part-time. Part-time in Social Security is great, but it's not enough. They need their retirement check to go with that, so that you get to maintain that current employee with a lot of experience, who's a good, valuable worker, and they drop down to part-time and draw their retirement check at the same time. On the flip side, you have the less than most desirable employee, somebody who's always been a pain in the butt since the day they got there. I've hung around for 30 years. And you were just crossing your fingers that tomorrow is the day that they announce their retirement, but they find out that they can draw their retirement check and their paycheck at the same time. Oh, and by the way, they're 67 years old, and so they can also draw Social Security without a reduction. And so now they start getting 3 paychecks coming in the door at one time. They're in hog heaven. They're making more money than they've ever seen in their life, and they ain't ever going to leave. Oh, and by the way, they've got a lot of health issues, and they're going to the doctor every other month. And they're driving your county health insurance cost up because, again, you're their primary, not Medicare. And you know, they're not working at possibly the best level they could be working at because, again, they're 68 years old and running a bulldozer. Now, I say that facetiously because my dad was 74 years old and still runs a bulldozer, and he does it very well. So I'm not picking on public works guys because my dad was a public works guy. But again, that person becomes a liability to you. And again, as long as they're able to draw both those checks at the same time, they have no desire to leave, and they can become a severe liability to you. They're less productive, they're driving health insurance cost up, and they're dangerous out there depending on their job function that they're in. And like I say, they have no reason to leave because, again, they're getting a paycheck and a retirement check at the same time. So again, these are one of these situations where I've argued it both ways. But what you have to look at is what your overall, you know, what is costing you more. Or you have more valuable employees that are taking this and you're able to keep them around, or is it more of the people that, hey, it probably would have been better off if they just went ahead and retired. I don't make that call. I can't make that call. I don't, you know, you got 4 people currently doing it right now. I don't know if we've got a big list of people that are coming up on age 65, and you might have 10 people doing it next year. We can run a report to find out. It really doesn't cost your plan anymore. I'll be honest with you, because we were targeting them starting their benefit at that age. And again, once they start drawing it, their benefit doesn't go up any higher. So it's just a matter of cost with regards to health insurance cost, replacement cost. Hey, can we get somebody in here making less money doing this exact same job that may be more productive, you know, in a deputy or a public safety position? I don't know. I've seen it where it's been beneficial to have this provision at some counties, but I've seen it more as a bigger detriment to a lot of counties because, again, they have the people they just cannot, you know, that should have left years ago, and now they're not going to leave anytime soon.
Any question for Greg on the in-service distributions?
It is certainly something you can change in your plan if you want to give you know, we've seen counties say, hey, we're going to give everybody a chance for the next 6 months. If you're of that age to turn it on, and after 6 months, nobody else can turn it on. That's always an option to give them a heads up. Again, we can look at the numbers to see how many people you got coming up on that magical age 65 date. Again, for every, you know, my experience says for every 1 person that you have that takes this, that you want to keep hanging around, you got 3 that you don't want, you know, that you'd rather have, you know, go home and sit on the porch than hang around the county for another 2 years doing the quote unquote double dip. But that's just been my experience. You sometimes you lose a valuable person, but in other respects, you sometimes maintain 3 people that you probably should have had let go a while ago. Again, just to let you know too, where you're going to have a problem, or potentially where you could have a problem if you do go away with this. And again, you know, not to broad stroke this, but you'll have departments, typically those who have elected officials, that try to have their employees retire and then show back up to work 3 months later as a part-time person. That is a big no-no. You can't do that. They can't do that. That's a plan violation. But that's it, because the in-service provision's not in there anymore. That's what they try to do. Oh, John's retiring. Wink, wink, nudge, nudge. John shows up 3 months later, part-time. That's plan violation, because John had no intention of retiring. John's plan was to go home, sit for 3 months, and come back to work. So just be aware of that you might have some pushback with your constitutional officers by taking out that plan, because they have folks that they may want to keep on part-time after retirement that they can no longer do. Got to give you both sides of the story.
Any questions on that service distribution?
Something good.
We can move on. Like I said, we'll be looking at in executive session, I'm sure. If we're nothing else in in-service distribution, if we can move on to on-call policies, Mr. Risner, who's handling that tonight?
I can start out talking about that, Mr. Chairman. I'm gonna, if you give me just a second, I'm gonna scroll down to it in the packet so you can see it on the screen.
Jason, are you going to want us to hang around for the executive session or come back in?
Mr. Chairman, what do you think?
We could contact them if we needed them, couldn't we?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay, let's do that. If we need you, we can contact you for executive session. How's that?
Yep, that'll work, Mr. Chairman. And again, to all members of the board, if after going over some of this stuff and some of it's sinking in, if you have any questions for myself or David that you'd like to call us directly on, Jason has all my numbers and contact information. Please don't hesitate. I know I've spit out a lot in a very short period of time, but I know you have a full plate. But if there's something you want to ask me directly, on your own, I'm more than happy to talk to you about that. I don't think that's going to cross any line or anything like that. If you just want a better understanding for your own knowledge, I'm in the office most days now. I'm not allowed to travel, so please feel free to reach out.
Well, Greg, David, we do appreciate it. And like I said, we'll get in the executive session. We'll contact you for any questions.
All right, Jason, I'll have my cell phone ready if I need to log back in.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
You bet. Y'all have a good evening.
Thank you, Greg.
Good night.
All right, Mr. Chairman, the next few policies we have here are various ones that have come up in different ways over the past few months. And the first one we have here is the on-call policy. I think a few meetings ago, we had a conversation about only using hourly employees rather than using salaried employees for on-call assignments. And we've had some issues, I think primarily on holiday weekends with where normally the salaried employee would earn comp time, but they're unable to because there was a holiday in that work week, which doesn't count as hours worked. So one of the changes you'll see here in this draft, and this is just, we did a little research and looked around at policies from other places and kind of put this together. But one of the things here is that it does say that only hourly employees would be used. It also specifies what departments will have on-call employees. That's animal services, building maintenance, public works, and the water department. And then you've got some language there about how long they have to respond, how long they have to respond to the initial call out, and then how long they have to respond to the site of the emergency or the call. And it talks about the pay they'll receive, how it's calculated. And so this is another change from what we have now. Hang on just one second. Let me rearrange my screen so I can see this. So this says that the employee will get 1 hour of on-call pay at the regular rate for each day of on-call status. And it says comp time shall not be given in lieu of payment for on-call time or time responding to emergencies. So it'll be paid out rather than incurring any comp time there. And then there's a minimum 2 hours on each callback. And then it's in addition to the 1 hour of on-call pay. So you get the 1 hour for each day that you're on call, and then you get a minimum of 2 hours for each callback. And this did include several examples at the end to help describe how to calculate that. And I guess that's just sort of the broad overview of it. I'll stop talking for just a minute and see if there are any questions on this or comments.
Spacebar is not working on mine, Jason. It was earlier, but I guess Mac disease or something. I don't know. So just to be clear, you get 1 hour. Okay, you're on call Monday through Friday. You get 1 hour for every day, 5 hours. You're called in on Tuesday, 3 hours. That's 5 hours plus 3 hours, or is the 2 hours in lieu of an hour on Tuesday? If that makes any sense.
I think the way this is written, you automatically get the 1 hour, and then your on call, the time you spend actually responding is in addition to that 1 hour. The way this version is written.
Okay, and that's what I was used to is you get the hour for actually being on call, not whether you respond or not. And then if you respond, it's based on the time it takes you to fix the problem.
That's right. And you get a minimum of 2 hours. If the assignment takes 3 hours, you would get the 3 hours plus the 1 hour for that day.
Any questions for Jason on what he's shown us at this time?
Not at this time, Chairman. I sent my comments to Jason. I thought everything looked good.
Same here. Looks good with me.
Looks good to me.
Mr. Tommy, you still with it? And I'll go back mute so you won't have no feedback. Let you have it, Jason.
All right. I'm gonna go back up to well, I tell you what, I'll just go on to the next one. I think they're in the order in the packet that they are on the agenda. So the next one I had in the packet, I think this is the order on the agenda, was the comp time policy. And so basically this is just saying that the way this is drafted, it would essentially do away with comp time and would say that we have some employees now that are hourly employees that are getting comp time. That's FLSA comp time, and you have to, they accrue it at 1.5 hours of comp time per hour worked in excess of 40. So when you give it off to them, you have, if they worked an hour over, you got to give them an hour and a half off some other time. The other thing with FLSA comp time for hourly employees is that, when they leave employment with the county, we have to pay that out and at time and a half. And so, a couple of different issues there with the hourly, comp time. And then this would essentially make salaried employees, I guess, going to more of a true salary type arrangement where you get paid the same thing, whether you work 50 hours in a week or 30 hours in a week. So goes back to just a sort of a strict salary type arrangement. So I'll stop talking for just a minute and see if there are any questions about that.
Jason, are we going to say that if it can't be if salaried employees are not accruing comp time and it can't be paid out on or when they leave, so are we going to they'll use it first before annual and sick leave, number one, and I'll leave it at that for now.
So you're talking about comp time that's already accrued at this point?
Yeah. For salaried people that already have, let's say you got 40 hours of comp time built up on the books now, they would use it before annual or sick, just to know that it won't be paid.
Yes, that's correct. I think we would, we would keep that for them to use, and they could use that instead of any other type of leave until it's all exhausted.
One last question or comment, I guess, is I'm not sure what our policy or practice has been before, but normally if you have salaried employees, and just say somebody comes in and goes to a doctor's, that comes in at 8 o'clock, goes to a doctor's visit, or back in an hour and a half, is that not held against them since they don't get paid overtime? Is that how?
I think one thing that I didn't address here that that the board might want to think about is some guidance on just that. What sort of increments does leave need to be used in? And if they're gone more than 2 hours, do they have to use leave, or 4 hours, or what's the threshold there for having to utilize leave? That's not addressed in this. I frankly didn't think of it until after I'd already typed this up, but that is something that we would probably need some guidance from the board on how to handle.
Do you have any common practices of what other communities, may do? Because, if I do go to the doctor's appointment, it may take 2 or 3 hours, but I don't go, but, once a year, or once every 6 months. I guess if I was going to the doctor, I guess once a week, and I was taking 2 or 3 hours at a time, then that may be something for us to look into. But then I'm just going to the doctor once a month, or once every 6 months, or once a year, then I should be fine. Any thoughts?
Commissioner Pitts, you're exactly right, and I think that goes back to if we're holding people accountable and in executive levels where they're exempt from overtime, they also should be in a leadership role that they're not abusing any sick or annual time leave like that. I think that needs to be addressed as a policy and procedure item, and let's just set standard for the amount of time, like Jason was talking about. I know based on my 3 positions at salaried level, what my requirement was as far as amount of leave taken before it counts toward you.
Any other comments on this? Jason, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to scroll down and then I'll go over the next one. So I think one other item that's come up kind of during the course of various conversations in recent months was the take-home vehicles. And so this is a policy and this actually came up, I think, several years ago. I found a policy from about 3 years ago that I think the board looked at that time. But basically, this lays out the departments that would be eligible for on-call vehicles or for take-home vehicles. Basically says that the only people that would take home vehicles would be those that have the on-call assignment at that time. And it says that there wouldn't be any that would be continuously driven home. It talks a little bit about the IRS guidelines on taxation of commuting vehicles. There's some pretty specific guidance in that IRS publication that's referenced there that talks about exactly what vehicles and what characteristics those vehicles have to have in order to not be taxed that way. And there's a couple different ways that the county could treat those for taxation purposes. This goes with the $1.50 per trip rule. And so basically it says that, for the trip home, that's $1.50, or the trip back, that's $1.50. And that would be added to your income. So with that, I'll kind of stop talking and see if we have any questions on this or comments.
And Jason, I'm not sure if Levita is part of this or not, part of this call, but I know that she's presented this to the board previously that we needed to make this change. I don't actually see her as a participant on the work session to be compliant with IRS guidelines.
And she's here with us, Ashley.
Okay, good. The board may have some questions for her in regard to this topic, but I just wanted to make the commissioners aware that I was hoping that she'd be here, that this has been an issue, and that she would be here for any questions.
Well, obviously, we've been doing it wrong for quite some time, and we've got to do it correctly, and that's the main reason on this take-home vehicle. And I think everybody agrees there's only one way to do it, and that's the right way. So, whatever we need to do on that, obviously, we need to take those steps to do it.
Well, the question I have, Mr. Chairman, it says this takes effect immediately. Does that mean that all vehicles will be taken away right now? There were people that were hired, with the understanding that they would have a vehicle. So, or is this going to take effect going forward?
Commissioner Robinson, my understanding is, we're not in compliance now. We have to make these changes. We're doing the salary study also, which what I hope would, once we get through it will help also. But we've got to do whatever. You got the IRS down there, and this is basically complying with them. And it would have to be my thoughts would have to be immediately.
So you're saying that your thoughts are that all vehicles would have to come back to the government center and be parked?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's per IRS. If we're going to be correct, we've got to do it now because we haven't been in compliance. And the last thing we want to do is get this
correct, Ashley?
Commissioner Robinson, that is correct. And I'm not sure if Levita wants to chime in. The way that we are handling vehicles is not compliant. And it is required that it be added in as part of their income, the employee's income, if they're utilizing these vehicles to go home, things of that nature. It may be, I understand that we don't want to say you don't have a way to get home tomorrow from work. That if the board wants to go forward so that we are compliant with the IRS guidelines on how we have to tax these vehicles, these operation of the county vehicles, that we make it effective as of like September 1st, so they have time to get different vehicles, personal vehicles, or something of that nature.
Yeah, another question I had, is this going to apply to the tax assessor's office too?
It would apply to, in this take-home policy, it applies to every county vehicle, except for the few that are required to have a vehicle when they are on call only. And I think in this policy, we made those departments where they could have no more than 2 take-home vehicles at any given time. And those were for the purpose of being on call. And so we have, a few departments that have to have some on-call employees, and they would take home a vehicle when they were on call, not every day, just only when they were on call. Yes, sir.
Right. Well, the one I was thinking about was a chief tax assessor.
Yes, sir. That position has no sort of on-call hours and does not fall up under the department that would be allowed to take a vehicle home for personal use. And so those vehicles would have to be parked.
Okay. Thank you.
Yes. Levita, do you want to chime in? I see that you're there.
Go ahead, Levita. I was getting ready to do you. Good job, Ashley. Go ahead, Levita.
Good evening. This was presented to the board back in 2014 and 2013. There's nothing so far in the present that has been done. So on the W-2 forms, it has not been allocated when an individual takes a vehicle home because it is considered a fringe benefit. And we have not been doing what the IRS has stated for us to do.
All right. You're muted, Levita.
So just out of curiosity, is IRS requirement?
Excuse me, sir?
What is the exact IRS requirement?
Okay, I'm not used to this system over here. So it would be, the IRS states that it would be $1.50. Yeah, the value of the vehicles taxable will be included as gross income and will be determined by multiplying $1.50 times the number of one-way commutes made in the vehicle. Home to work counts as one trip. Work to home counts as a second trip over the course of the year.
So simply it's counted as income to the employee.
Yes, ma'am.
And we have not been doing that, Commissioner Martin.
Right.
And under the IRS, that's called the commuting valuation rule.
The other option is a flat rate, correct?
Yes, sir.
Is that based on vehicle value and type or just generic?
It's just generic. I have to get used to this hold down and let go.
Do we have a flat rate amount for an employee that has a take-home vehicle?
Apparently, no. Currently, no, sir.
Commissioner Martin, I think that rule, the IRS rule, is what they refer to as the $3 a day rule. And basically it's, if you take it home 5 days a week and they don't count, vacations and stuff like that. I mean, you can take them off, but if you didn't take any vacations, it would add about $720 a year to your tax. You could be required to pay the taxes on that, portion of the increased revenue to your paycheck.
Thank you.
So I just got a question for the board, and I don't mind parking the cars, but just to ask, is there an option that if they wanted to keep the car and pay the taxes, is that something worth pursuing, or is it just best that we just park the cars?
I think part of the answer to that would go into how the board feels about part of this policy would save on gas for the county and wear and tear of the vehicle, maintenance of the vehicles. If you're sort of doing it across the board, one way, then you're saving on those things for all of the vehicles. If you're allowing some employees to continue to drive home and it be taxed as part of their income, then, you know, some of your vehicles, you're supplying gas for those employees to go home back and forth, and maintenance and tires and oil changes and all of that, and some you're not. I'm not sure how the board feels about allowing that to continue for some but not the others.
I understand, Ashley. Like I said, I want to be fair about it, but I just want to throw that out to determine was it an option, because I remember when it came up, in previous years, that was part of the discussion. But at this point now, if it's best for us just to park them, and only for those that are on our policy to have them, then I'm fine with that.
Chairman, this might be just a comment for all, and going through this in the past on 2 different occasions, I think the only discussion that came up about continuing to have take-home vehicles was when it's in the interest of the county, and I would just use the water department or public works or something like that. If you had a department head that when you have an issue, you have on-call guys that are there to fix a busted pipe, but you also have a department head that is, I won't say work in the community, but dealing with the situation where he's on site, having to coordinate resources or something like that. And that kind of phased out with if employees had been promised a vehicle or had a vehicle when they came to work there, even though it wasn't in writing, that was how it was kind of phased out, that they paid the $3 a day rule until that person retired, and then the vehicle just didn't go home after that. But I think it's a decision we make, how we want to handle that, the one-offs.
Any other questions or comments on this? Jason, I'll get back to you.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm going to scroll down to the next one, which I believe is our GPS policy. So I believe it was 2 meetings ago, we talked some about the proposals we received for a GPS solution for the county. And at that time, the board had expressed some interest in making sure that we had a policy in place so that system could be used to its full capabilities. And so we've gone through and drafted up a policy that talks about the various things that this system will do, and goes through and describes several different levels of violations, and then what the punishment, so to speak, would be for violating those particular things. So give me just 1 second. I'm going to scroll down and get to that section. Okay, so this is the section that you can see there, the various things that this monitors. There's a lot more that it monitors as well, but these are the main things.
Jason, a question I had about this, and you may have answered it before, but I don't remember. But how does the vehicle know, or how do we know actually who is driving the vehicle?
That's a great question. There's a add-on for vehicles that are driven by multiple individuals. You can pair this with a key fob. So when somebody gets in a vehicle before they start it, they put the key fob to a little thing that's mounted in the vehicle, and that identifies it back to that driver. So in situations where we do have multiple drivers and you need to be able to distinguish among them, we could install that feature.
I'm thinking that we would need that to some extent, because out on the job, the foreman may tell one person to go here and there to get lunch and come back, and he may use the foreman's truck, but he may not have a key fob.
Right. Yeah, we could certainly look at adding that in and so that the driver of each truck would be identified.
I guess the question I'd be on the key fob, what keeps them from not identifying themselves and just driving under the previous drivers? Or will it not crank unless they identify themselves as a driver, I guess?
I'll confirm this, but I think my understanding on that is it's not going to let them operate it until they scan.
Jason,
Go ahead, Ashley.
I just had a question, and we may just not be there, regarding the immediate termination provisions. Do you want me to wait until you start going through that?
Yeah, you can get to that in just a minute. If
Okay.
you want to. So here we have what this policy referred to as the rules of the road, which I thought was a good way to describe it, I guess. And this basically lays out how employees should operate county vehicles, or what they should not do in a county vehicle. And so it says they shouldn't go more than 5 miles an hour over the posted speed limit. Shouldn't be operated after normal work hours, except when they're on call and responding to an after hours call. There should be no tampering with the GPS devices. Seatbelt use is required. People shouldn't deviate materially from their assigned route or their assigned task. We also rolled in, I think previously we had talked about an idling policy. And so I just tried to fold that in with this. And basically this says they shouldn't allow the vehicle to idle for more than 5 minutes, except for those situations that are laid out there. There certainly are situations where people would have to allow the vehicle to idle for longer than that. But and then the last one there just says they shouldn't engage in harsh acceleration, harsh braking, or harsh cornering. And so all these things are things that this system monitors and reports on. And so the next section is what Ashley was talking about, the categories of violations. I'll go through those real quick and then turn it back over to Ashley for her comments. So group one, and I did this as an immediate termination kind of thing, driving more than 15 miles an hour over the posted speed limit, unauthorized use after hours, or tampering with the GPS unit. Then a second group of violations as 10 miles per hour not wearing a seatbelt, sort of deviating from your assigned route, or two separate group 3 violations would qualify as one group 2. Group 3, sort of the, I guess in my thinking, the least severe, 5 miles an hour over the posted speed limit, idling for more than 5 minutes, 3 or more harsh braking events in a single month, 3 or more harsh cornering events in a single month, and 3 or more harsh acceleration events in a single month. So with that, I'll turn it back over to Ashley for her comments.
I guess perhaps my comments are more probate court related than county attorney related. I just was not sure. I mean, it's real easy for an employee, one time to go 15 miles over the limit. That is, 14 and unders are not even reported on our records and have no points associated with those in the state of Georgia. At 15 it's 2 points. So I wasn't sure if we wanted, we could have a really good employee that one time, goes 15 miles over the speed limit. And as far as Georgia courts go, that's not a severe speeding ticket. I wasn't sure if we wanted to add in some sort of leeway. We have an exceptional employee that has 15 mile over, screw up, some sort of leeway in there to have, maybe suspended from work, termination, or suspended for, a period of time, and then they can return to work. Just some sort of alternative in case the board or the department heads or you, deem that we do not wish to lose a certain employee over a one-time infraction. Just have a sort of an alternative.
Yeah.
My suggestion would be that policy should be plain and simple and applicable to all and not subjective in nature. And we don't want to create any exceptionalities. So all are held to the same standard.
Commissioner, I missed the end of what you said right there.
I was saying all policies should be directly applicable to everyone. We should not have exceptionalities or any subjective parts of policies, because that's where we have problems. It should be consistently applicable to all employees.
All right. And one thing I was going to mention, kind of related to what Ashley said, a lot of times when these are set up, you can build in a sort of a tolerance type thing where somebody doesn't get a violation like right when they hit 70 miles an hour and a 55. Most of these things are set up. And in talking to some of the different vendors, the way they will set these up is 15 miles per hour over the speed limit for greater than 6 seconds. So it's not just a oops kind of thing that somebody corrects in a hurry. They have to have been driving that speed for 6 seconds or more, or whatever we set that at, before they get a violation there. And the other thing that I kind of wanted to ask about, related to all that, this has a feature where you can get the device to beep at the driver. So if you could set it up where at 68 miles per hour or at 4 miles an hour over the posted speed limit or whatever number, you can have the device start beeping at the driver so that they know that they're doing something they're not supposed to, and they can correct that behavior before it becomes a violation. Same with seat belts. You can build it in where there's no violation unless they operate the vehicle in motion for more than 3 seconds without their seatbelt. And the same deal with the seatbelts. We could make it beep at them until they put their seatbelt on, and that also works for the idling too. I've tested that out myself, and so you can, when they get close to that number or when they get to that number, you could have the device alert them and have them correct their behavior. I think that would sort of have to make a decision. Do you want to hope people will do the right thing on their own, or as they're drifting, do we want to alert them so that they can correct their behavior? So that's just something for the board to kind of think about. But I think I have language in here where the system would alert them before they reach those thresholds.
Oh, that's great. That's interesting.
Jason, I got a friend of mine who says he'll never win the driving award at where he works at, but as you said, it will give you a warning that, yes, you're speeding, and it gives you ample time to slow down and correct it. But what his company does at the end of the year, that actually scores their driving for the year. And whoever scores the best at the end of the year gets a nice dinner for he and his spouse or girlfriend. And as my friend said, he would never win that. He would never win that dinner at the end of the year, but for the most part, he's not the worst driver, because it gets to be a camaraderie. Who's the worst driver? Who's the best driver at their job? And they kind of compare it every year, so it gets kind of a little camaraderie going along with it too. So once you get used to it, he said, first time he did it, he had a hard time getting used to it. But a warning that I'm getting ready to lose my job. I keep this up. Yeah, he regrouped real quick, but it does have a warning, just like you said. And he said, if it wasn't for that, I'm sure he said he's thankful for that warning, because he gets daydreaming at times and lets him know right quick, and he knows to break it down.
Yeah. This one does have a thing called driver score, and I've got a little bit about that in the policy. I wasn't sure how much we wanted to emphasize that or not. So basically, the way I've got this written right now is that if somebody's driver score falls below a certain threshold, we could require them to take certain actions and defensive driving classes or whatever might be necessary there based on that score. And so that score just kind of looks at all these driving behaviors and converts it into a number. And so that gives you something to so that you can compare employees, just like you were talking about there, Chairman. And we can use that a lot or not so much, just based on the board's preference. But anyway.
Commissioner Martin made a comment about a drive safety incentive. I think it's a great idea.
I'm not sure if Jonathan was finished. I couldn't hear
I
you.
don't know if you heard me or not. What I was saying is that Commissioner Martin made a drive safety initiative or incentive, so the whoever has the highest score at the end of the quarter, they may get that steak dinner or something like that the chairman mentioned. The employees are cognizant of or aware of the importance of driving safe at all times.
We missed the first part of Jonathan, but I think you were saying some incentive for drive safe and for better drivers, and I think that was the whole intent of this program to begin with, was to promote safer, better driving and all that, and it reduces our insurance costs and our damage to vehicles and our damage to employees and everything else. So I agree 100%. I think we need to look at it on both sides of the spectrum. To create better drivers, you train the ones that are doing the things wrong, and you support the ones that are doing things right. So I think, Jason, I believe this thing sets up
Yes.
parameters where you can.
Hear anything I said? Did you guys hear me or no?
Heard you then.
Can you guys hear me or no? Well, take it away, Sam.
Yeah, we can hear you now, Jonathan. You're breaking up earlier, but we heard you talking about the driving incentive, which I think is a great idea.
Jason, I have another question. Can the system sense if the vehicle is in a minor accident, like maybe backing into another vehicle or a pole or something along that line, or bumping into something that wouldn't trigger the airbag?
Yes, it can, and it records their. Wish I could remember the names. There are two.
Okay, well, listen, that was all Commissioner Martin. I just saw one of his comments, so I just want to share with the board.
All right. Commissioner Robinson, I think you were asking about data around an accident, and it can do an alert based on if somebody has an accident. It report. It's got, I think it's an accelerometer, and it's two different types of things that are built into it that measure a lot of different variables, and it records all that leading up to the accident. So so you can really look at it and see what caused that accident, and you'll certainly be able to tell what speed the person was driving, and if they were doing any kind of harsh acceleration or cornering or braking,
Yeah.
and
Right.
it'll give you a lot of information around that.
Because a lot of our vehicle damage is minor stuff, backing into objects, things along that line.
I think it would give us good data on those that we'd be able to look at, and really on any type of accident. I think we'll get a lot of useful information there.
That's good.
Yeah, I like it.
Jason, one thing, you can set parameters for, just say somebody pulls out in front of you and you have to slam on brakes, to avoid an accident. I know that's a one-time braking too harshly, but I think if we set a parameter of, if it does that 3 times in a month, then obviously you're driving a little too fast, which would be told on there anyway.
That's right, and I think some of the fleet people that I've had an opportunity to talk with through this process have said, it's not, you before you discipline somebody for an incident, you really need to ask those questions about, what was going on there, and if it's just an isolated incident, like you're saying, that's one thing. But if you see a pattern where they're, having those types of events on a regular basis, you have a pretty good idea that, maybe there was something else going on there.
There we go. I keep wanting to scroll down myself.
Mhm.
Mr. Chairman, sort of here towards the end, or in this portion, it talks about, who has responsibility for enforcing the policy. And I think, the way this is written is that, the primary responsibility falls on the department head to monitor this and monitor it for their employees. It's something where we can customize the reports and the views that the department heads that a department head has, so that it's just his or her employees that he can see there, and so the primary responsibility does fall on the department heads for enforcing this. It talks about, appeals of any GPS related disciplinary actions, so that if somebody, did slam on brakes to avoid a deer that was running out in the road, or, something along those lines, they would have an avenue to appeal that. Let's see. And then the last two pages here, and this is just something I borrowed from somewhere else, but they're, violation reports, so that if a department head has to counsel or discipline an employee related to this policy, they have those forms available there.
Any other questions for Jason? Is that all we've got on your GPS policy, Jason?
Yes, sir. That's all we have.
At this time, we need a executive session.
We could, kind of up to you, Mr. Chairman, if you want to go ahead and do that now, and might cut down some time for later, or if everybody needs a break, we'll take a break.
Y'all need a break, or are you ready for executive session?
I'm game for whatever, Chairman.
I'm waiting on a motion.
Make a motion, we go into close, meeting to go into executive session for personnel issues.
Second.
Second. All in favor, aye? Any opposed? Ayes have it. Thank y'all.
All right. So everybody, before anybody jumps off, so WebEx has a feature called the lobby, and so for everybody that's not going to be participating in an executive session, I'm going to send you to the lobby, to the virtual lobby, and you can just hang out there and stay on the line. You shouldn't be able to see or hear anything that's going on there. And then when the board is ready to come back into open session, I'll bring all of you back in from the lobby, and so I can do all that here. And so if y'all just want to kind of hang out there, I'll bring you back as soon as the board goes back into open session. So, Mr. Chairman, if you'll give me just a second, I'll send everybody to the lobby.